Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing you a text-to-speech friendly deep dive about Mahassine and Cenk, what really happened before that dramatic airport moment, why it matters, and what it means for their next steps. If you enjoy long, carefully told stories like this, please like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Thank you, and let's get into it. For anyone new here, a quick refresher. Mahassine Marabet has built her reputation the hard way: layered performances, careful project choices, and a public image that leans more toward grounded professionalism than non-stop headlines. Cenk is, in many ways, her mirror: experienced, magnetic on camera, and quietly ambitious off it. The two met on a set that demanded long hours and emotional stamina. The result wasn't only a successful screen partnership, it was a rhythm. They learned to match each other's timing, lean into silences, and trust that the other would catch the moment when a scene tipped from scripted into real. Now to the week everything changed. According to the timeline pieced together by multiple witnesses at the airport and crew members who spoke to the press afterward, the turning point didn't begin at the gate. It began days earlier, when Mahassine told close friends she needed to step away and go home for a while, home as in family, language, and streets she knows by instinct. The reason wasn't scandal. It was the accumulated weight of a year spent on sets and on planes, a calendar filled with premieres, reshoots, and press tours, and the quiet feeling that you can't hear your own voice when there's always a microphone in your hand. It wasn't a dramatic exit, it was a pause she felt she had to claim before the next chapter claimed her. Cenk heard about her plan like everyone else in their inner circle, secondhand. They had been in a good place professionally, communicating through assistants and late-night voice notes, both of them exhausted and trying not to disappoint anyone. He reached out, then reached out again, and when her replies stayed measured and brief, he made a decision that none of his team would have advised. He bought a last-minute ticket on the same airline, not to fly, but to get past security and speak to her face-to-face before the door literally closed. Here's where the story becomes the moment everyone is talking about. Witnesses say the first call for boarding had already played when Cenk arrived at the terminal. He didn't try to push past anyone. He didn't stage a spectacle. He went to the desk, explained he had a seat on the flight, and quietly asked the agent if there was any chance he could talk to a passenger named Mahassine before boarding ended. The agent said no, then paused, then asked for identification. At that exact minute, the gate screens flashed a short operational hold, something that happens for a dozen technical reasons in any given hour at any major airport. The timing created the illusion that the flight was being held just for them. It wasn't that cinematic. But it was enough to give him a window. What happened next is the part only the two of them can fully tell. Observers saw no shouting, no chaos, no cameras shoved into faces. They saw two people arguing the way people argue when they care. Hands open, voices low, sentences that start and stop before they're finished. A security officer stood nearby but didn't intervene. The agent at the desk pretended to look busy and didn't announce the second boarding call for a few extra breaths. Mahassine listened. Cenk spoke more than he ever does in public. He wasn't asking her to forget herself, he was asking for something more precise. Stay 2 days. Have one conversation with me without a script. Tell me what you need so we can figure out if the next project includes us both or if it's time to step aside before resentment takes the shape of a headline. The part everyone keeps repeating, the part about him stopping the plane, is a myth built from a real feeling. He didn't stop a flight. He interrupted a pattern. The pattern where schedules decide lives, where messages replace meetings, where you leave because you're tired and return because you have to. For two people who built their careers on timing, this was timing used for something other than a mark on the floor. Eventually, Mahassine nodded. She didn't swing into his arms, she didn't make a declaration for the cameras. She walked to the desk, asked the agent to reissue her ticket for a later date, thanked the staff, and followed Cenk toward a quiet corner of the terminal where the fluorescent noise doesn't reach. They stayed there long enough for a crew member to arrive, long enough for both teams to start rearranging calendars, and long enough for the rumor machine to catch fire. By mid-afternoon, social media had sorted itself into predictable camps. There were the romantics, convinced they'd just watched the third act of a love story where everything is forgiven at the gate. There were the skeptics, convinced it was choreographed to save a partnership rumored to be struggling. And then there were the professionals, other actors, writers, crew, who understood the airport scene as what it actually was, two colleagues trying to protect something they built from being swallowed by the machine that benefited from it. The next day, each posted a note that felt deliberately unsensational. Mahassine thanked the airline staff for their patience and explained she was postponing travel for personal reasons. She asked for calm and promised to communicate when she had something concrete to share. Cenk apologized to passengers if the brief delay caused stress, thanked the staff for doing their jobs, and wrote one sentence that landed harder than any declaration. Sometimes you have to say the most important things in person. No heart emojis, no performance of intimacy, no soundtrack, just a line that acknowledged exactly why he went. Behind those public notes, what did they actually discuss? A few things, according to people who would know. First, they sketched a boundary. If they return to a shared set, the work comes with guardrails, fewer press gimmicks, more rehearsal time, and a veto on marketing stunts that blur the line between character and person. Second, they agreed that going home doesn't mean running away. If Mahassine takes a sabbatical, it's on her terms, with an exit that honors fans instead of punishing them. Third, they opened space for words that rarely fit in a press release: disappointment, fatigue, fear of being replaced by the next new pairing, fear of becoming a product version of themselves. Naming those fears out loud is not weakness. It's the work. It's worth saying what this story is not. It is not a fairy tale where a flight pauses, the crowd applauds, and the couple leaves in cinematic slow motion. It is not a scandal. It is not proof that every rumor of distance was true. The truth is more adult and more interesting. Two people tried to choose presence over performance for an afternoon, and the world cared enough to watch. If you've followed their journey, you also know why the stakes feel high. Their screen dynamic never needed cheap tricks. It thrived on the quiet electricity that happens when two actors trust a scene enough to hold back instead of overselling it. That kind of trust is fragile. It can be chipped away by schedules, by noise, by 1,000 micro-decisions that trade intimacy for efficiency. What happened at the airport was a counter-choice. It said, "Not this time." Not without a conversation. Where does that leave them now? With 3 immediate paths and no requirement to pick today. Path 1 is rest, let Mahassine go home, let the air clear, and meet again when the urgency has become clarity. Path 2 is recalibration, a smaller project, tightly written, filmed with minimal press, that tests whether their rhythm thrives without the circus. Path 3 is reinvention, a new genre, a new director, stakes that don't rely on romance but still let them do what they do best: listen, look, and land an emotion without spelling it out. Whatever they choose, the audience has a role. If you want stories like theirs to survive with integrity, reward boundaries. Don't hound people at gates. Don't let the loudest narrative be the least thoughtful. Ask for the work you fell in love with, scenes that breathe, writing that respects your intelligence, and performances that remember why you watched in the first place. A final note about that much-discussed grand gesture. Movies taught us that love happens in the middle of a crowd, under a spotlight, with an audience waiting to cheer. Real life is rarely so tidy. The most meaningful thing about what Cenk did isn't that he ran. It's that he refused to let an important chapter end in a text message. He didn't demand an answer. He asked for a conversation. That doesn't belong to romance alone. That belongs to any partnership worth keeping, creative, personal, or the complicated hybrid theirs has always been. If you found this breakdown useful, balanced, detailed, and built for text-to-speech, please like the video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments how you read the moment. Was it impulse or intention? Pressure or protection? And what would you want to see if they share the screen again? An intimate limited series, a careful prestige pivot, or a complete reinvention? Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Take care, and goodbye.